Hello, I'm Dalton Delan. I'm a columnist for the Berkshire Eagle, and this is Eagle Reels, where we take you beyond the news. My very special guests today, Fred Rutberg, the publisher of the Berkshire Eagle, Kevin Moran, the executive editor of the Eagle. Welcome, gents.
Well, thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you very much. Fred, I'm going to start with you. The Pulitzer Prize-winning Berkshire Eagle has a long and storied history. The roots go back to the Western Star, a weekly in Stockbridge in 1789. The Eagle has been published daily since 1892. You became an owner in 2016. Before that, you were a judge. What attracted you to the Eagle?
The Eagle is my retirement project. Massachusetts judges have mandatory retirement at age 70. As I was approaching that point in my life, I thought I had a little bit of a fastball left, looking for something that would be interesting. And the story I've told many, many times is that my wife and I were in Nantucket. We heard Joe Klein speak. He was giving a talk for the library, and he said offhandedly that democracy requires citizenship, and citizenship requires a town square. I whispered to Jude, the Berkshire Eagle, because the Eagle had been in absentee ownership for 20 years, and it followed the trail that most happened. Most newspapers, when hedge funds buy them, the quality went down, price went up, and that was the beginning.
We'll get back to that. Kevin, a little bit of your origin, what brought you to the Eagle, and then would you tell us a little bit about editing the paper now in the Trump era and whether anything is different?
I grew up here in the Berkshires. I was born and raised in Adams, and after graduating from college, I knew that I could write, and I had an inkling that I could report, so I took a job at a local paper in North Adams and learned to hone my craft there and became an editor there. And along that way, I happened to bump into a member of the Miller family, which had owned the Berkshire Eagle for the better part of 100 years. And just randomly, he said, so you're a reporter with the North Adams Transcript? And I said, yes. He said, well, what are you going to do? What are your plans? What are your goals? I said, well, someday I would like to be the editor of the Berkshire Eagle. Lo and behold, here I am. Lo and behold, Fred came along and made a good thing even better.
And the Trump era, when you have to call out lies and all sorts of things that were once anathema in journalism?
Sure. I think the Donald Trump political era has really has marked a really a large sea change for not just national media, but yes, also local media. I think one of the things to keep in mind, that I keep in mind, is that media, free press, is actually enshrined in the U.S. Constitution. Therefore, if we stand as a media and stand up to defend the U.S. Constitution, we can make sure that the work that we do, the truths that we tell, the checks and balances that we have, and the responsibility to keep an eye on government is sort of the guide star for me. There is no question that Trump has certainly rearranged truth and has done a really remarkable job at that. It's not the first time we've had a character such as him come along in history, but he's certainly the latest and probably one of the best at it. That said, what we try to do at the Eagle is to make sure that we provide the right checks and balances to facts or fictions, whether it's coming from a president or whether it's coming from a city councilor or a local selectman.
Thank you very much. Now, Fred, back to you. You intrigued me here. I'm thinking, I've heard of a lot of retirement plans. They usually involve chaise lounge in St. John's or something. 60 newspapers have closed across the country in the last 20 years. You took on the Eagle. as your retirement plan. And a mission is one thing, but we all know that running a paper is a business. So how did you take that on as a business, and what has that been like?
Well, first of all, I don't get all the credit. Let's be very frank to begin with. I was very fortunate at the beginning to partner up with three other incredibly accomplished men, Bob Wilmers, Hans Morris, Stan Lipsey, and they brought an enormous amount to the table, and including an enormous amount of capital. So I was the guy. I have been the face of the Eagle and the face of the company, but that having that backing is overwhelming. So how does this to run the company? I mean, I ended up running it by default. We had a publisher who, after a year, decided to leave the business, and he said at a board meeting, "Well, Fred's ready." Bob Wilmer said, "What's Fred ever run?" And but I was the last.
A courtroom.
Yes, I was going to say that, or I was also about to say to him, "Well, we had a 4-person law firm, and Bob was the chairman of a bank that had 17,000 employees, so I thought that wouldn't go over well. I just kept my mouth shut and nodded. It's been an incredible experience to learn how to do this and to have the opportunity to do it, and to have a partner like Kevin made it a lot easier. We are mission, but the thing is, we are mission driven, and that's the key. On the day that we announced we were going to buy the paper, someone asked Bob at a press conference, "Why are you doing this?" I mean, and he just said offhandedly, "Well, to create the finest community newspaper in America." He said it like, "Why else would I do this?" And then a few minutes later, someone asked Hans Morris the same question, and Hans said, "To build a company that will last 100 years," because the Millers had owned it 100 years, and those have been our two North Stars, and we haven't flinched from either one, and you need to have both, because if you don't have longevity, then what good is it? And if you don't have quality, then it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I mean, look, as a member of the team, nevertheless, I'm always amazed at both the coverage and the editorials, and doing that with, I know, a lean staff. It's quite incredible. And Kevin, for the last 6 years, the weekend edition that I'm proud to be a part of has won the New England Newspaper and Press Association's Best in Class. 6 years running. There's still a lot of papers in New England. How do you do it?
Well, we clearly have leadership at the top, ownership that has impressed upon us the goals and the mission, which are, as Fred had explained. And we have a newsroom, of about 30 people who are really keen on making sure that we do have a high quality, not only newspaper, but we're into broadcast, we're into obviously digital, and wherever our readers are, we are or are expanding into, including in various social medias. We even have a TikTok channel, of course. But people really have responded to that message, that we have an opportunity to be here, performing great journalism, and that we have sort of the backing to do it is not entirely common in this day and age at a lot of local newspapers.
Dalton, if I could just jump in for a second. As an example, about a year after we bought the papers at a board meeting, Bob Wilmers said, "You can't be a newspaper in this community, the Berkshires, unless you have a world-class cultural coverage." And we charged Kevin. We said, "We got to do this." And 2 months later, he and Lindsay Holmbach came into the meeting with a whole...
Lindsay being the managing editor.
Yeah, she's now the managing editor, but then she wasn't. With this plan for the landscape section, which is part of the Weekender. And it's probably the thing that really makes it unique. 12 pages, all local, in those days, all color. I mean, it's all color now, but back then that was a lot more difficult to do. And so it just shows the kind of, how our Kevin and his team take this opportunity and really ran with it. I'm very, very proud of that.
Absolutely. Well, here we are in this era when I have an expression that we've traded analog dollars into digital pennies. And I think you've even perhaps crossed the line, which you could tell us about, from more digital than analog. And how do you keep a business going in that much of a change era with so much uncertainty?
Being nimble is really important, and that's where, fortunately, we have a great board with people that are knowledgeable about the industry, knowledgeable about technology, knowledgeable about business. So we're always looking ahead. We have a 5-year plan that we continue to update. We know where the future is. We know the future is digital, but our present is digital and print. And so we have to do both. You're absolutely right about, I was told it was digital dollars for, I'm sorry, I don't like dollars for digital dimes, but it's more alliterative.
I'm more accurate on this.
You're probably more accurate, absolutely. No, we're one of the things we're really proud of is that our numbers of digital subscriptions has really grown over the last several years. Prior to COVID, we had 2,700 digital-only subscriptions. We now have close to 8,700, which is over 3 times as many. Very few newspapers can say that. Certainly very few community newspapers can say that. And during that same time, while our print has declined and declines nationally, mainly out of demographics, as our people die off, replace them, our print subscribers. The number of people who read the Eagle today, who buy the paper, is more today than when we bought the paper in 2016. There are not that many community newspapers, if any, that can be that proud. And that's, again, it's only because of the content. That's what people are buying.
Thank you, Fred. I mean, Kevin, as Fred mentioned before, here we are, and we're actually doing a video conversation, and there'll be an extract of it also as a Q&A in print, and you'll put a QWERTY code and we'll try to send people. Is this an experiment? Are we far enough along? Or do you have what's your confidence level? Are we learning? Is it working? How do you feel as you look ahead with this hybrid that is no longer just a print vehicle?
It really has given us a lot of wind in our sails to be able to say that we've grown digital subscriptions and that our digital audience is solid and growing. As Fred was saying, that a lot of community newspapers don't make a transition from the legacy product of print into the digital world, but we have. But I also think that we are doing it realistically, and we're also keeping in pace with, I believe, the expectations of our audience and sort of the pacing of our audience as well. And that means that when we do more video, when we are on social media, social media is a really big driver of traffic to us, and it's people relying on those news feeds to be connected with us to ensure that they get their news. It's all going in the right direction, and we're lucky to have folks who care about the value of content. And we wouldn't have the stories without a great community to cover, and the Berkshires are literally so many stories in these hills, in the city of Pittsfield, in the city of North Adams, in South County, Central County, North County here. And those stories, a story is a good story is a good story. And if it's told well in words, if it's told well on a podcast, if it's told well in video, then that's how we're going to do it. And as long as we have the fuel, those stories that are fueling our journalism, we'll tell them on whatever platform readers are at.
Platform agnostic, I like to say. Well, Fred, this morning I was out and I went to the Big Y in Lee, and I was so happy to see the Eagle on the racks. A year ago, the Times was also on the racks. The New York Times, which announced 2 days ago 210,000 new digital subscribers in the last quarter. But it seems to me that as I travel around the country, they are quickly basically saying goodbye to newspaper. Do you see that day? Is that yet in the landscape? Or how long do you think we'll be in this hybrid mode?
I hope a long time. Years ago, when I was investigating this whole endeavor, which was 9 years ago, someone told me at that time that A.G. Sulzberger had said recently, back 9 years ago, that in 5 years the New York Times would not be printing. Well, obviously, he was wrong about that. We have a strong print audience, people that are devoted to it. We want to continue it. They like the print, I like the print, and of course, from an economic point of view, it's very important. Advertising, the print advertising dollars are significant. So we want to hold on to that as long as possible. Obviously, we've demonstrated our commitment to print by installing a new press a couple of years ago. Again, something that very few, if any, newspapers have done, community newspapers have done recently. So when that time comes, eventually, eventually we'll be all digital. Whether that's in my lifetime, I don't know. I really don't know when that is. Because, like I say, 10 years ago, you would have said, oh, 10 years for sure they won't be doing this. Well, here we are 10 years down the road, and it's strong. As a matter of fact, last month we had more print subscribers than we had the month before. Now that it was maybe a blip, but that actually happened. So who knows? I have no answer.
Thank you. So Kevin, for an editor, and I began as an editor with Time Inc. And in my television work, which I've done so much, now it's all become optimizing for digital and for your phone and so forth. And I'm one of those readers. I know I'm in a minority, Fred, but I'm one of those readers of your e-edition where I still get digitally the paper laid out just like it was in print, like it is in print. But I try to imagine, I can't imagine your challenge of not only those dual formats, but how do you create a simulacrum of that? I don't know what to call it. That wonderful browsing experience that a laid out newspaper has, versus the kind of narrowcast of a digital where you just go right to your section or go right to your article. Do you think about that? What do you do as an editor to try to preserve that I don't know what to call it, that kind of menu that a newspaper has that I fear gets lost? And maybe that's why we get worried about the rabbit hole of those who just run down their social media kind of path.
Well, there's no question that when you open up a print newspaper, the layout there is purposeful. There's a sense of hierarchy to the news. The front page is where the most important news goes. That's not to say that other news is not elsewhere in the paper is not important either. That's the truth. But it's also a tactile experience, and you see generally what the editors in the newsroom was thinking that goes into constructing that day's newspaper. Online is different, whether it be a website, our mobile app, our e-edition that you can view on your computer or on your phone. Is absolutely different. It is, instead of multiple pages, it's one screen. And that changes reader habits quite substantially. It also, I would say, venture that it's not a digital experience with any news. You'll be able to find all that you're looking for. And there is a process of discovery when it comes to digital news too. But typically, what readers are most attracted to is what's online, is what's presented to them right on a home page, and surfacing other parts of the website or our app to those readers is not easy to do. And so that does present a challenge. And so therefore I think a lot of news consumers tend to get caught up in the cycle of whatever the top 10 trending articles are. That said, one of the things that generations of newspaper editors didn't have, and I still don't have before me, is the ability to sit next to somebody at the breakfast table and pay attention to what it is that they're reading. In other words, what articles are they spending time on? Obviously, with digital news delivery, we get some feedback. We're able to tell how many people are reading a particular story, what kind of news resonates. And we work really hard at the Eagle, and I think harder than most newspapers, newsrooms our size, is to work with this premise that if the news is that important to report, we have to make it that interesting to read. And that's not to say that we're going to dumb down the news or do anything like that. No, as a matter of fact, we want to smarten people up by making the news accessible and understandable. And so you very often see a growing number of graphics, and especially online, where we have the capacity to do that. And you'll see a lot of other varieties of storytelling, whether it's through a short video, whether it's through a vodcast, such as Reels is, all those types of things. So it's a big palette, and we get smarter and smarter each moment. We're literally have started at the ground level with digital 20 years ago, and now here we are. And so, to whether or not print is going to be here for a while, I think it will be here for a while. Television was supposed to have killed radio. Radio's still around. Internet was supposed to kill TV. TV is still around. Streaming services are supposed to kill cable. Cable still, or network TV. Network TV is still around too. We have a very sort of a fracturing of how people can consume, and there's a variety of more that people can consume. But the numbers are there. I mean, people want good news and information in order that they can live their lives effectively and with a good degree of awareness and knowledge about the communities that they live in. The Berkshire Eagle provides that.
I'm hearing, it's very reassuring, I'm hearing that you're up to the curatorial challenge of how to still sort of bring people also to some important news, but you, not just where they want to go, but that sort of scroll down thought. But you brought up something else fascinating about being able to know because of this where the eyes are going. This brings me over a perfect segue for you, Fred. So you're competing for ad dollars. You've got Google and Facebook algorithms. They know everything. They're the Oz. They know everything. What do you do if let's imagine that I'm an advertiser, and what's your elevator pitch to me to put some ads into the Eagle, digital and print? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, first of all, I would disagree with you that Google and Facebook and Amazon know more. They know more about parts of us than we'll ever know. That I grant it. But we know more about this community than they do. And I
like that pitch already.
Yeah. Well, and it's also true. And one way I prove it is if I go onto a site and say dinner in Lenox, they'll give me a list of restaurants, and without besmirching anyone, they're not the restaurants I would take you to. They're not the place I would send my friends to or advise others to go to. I know more about the community. They work on big numbers. They work on chains, on nationality. We work on real knowledge, real micro knowledge. And so we can put your product or your service in front of the audience that is more likely to make a purchase than they can. That's what I would say. And when we were buying the paper, again, way back when I didn't know anything about digital, I would say that if you have one chance to make a big noise in the Berkshires, you go to the Berkshire Eagle. it still is the place that reaches the most people.
And a quick follow-on, and print, doesn't that still have some advantage?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
No, that's what I mean. That's what I say about a big noise. We hear that all the time, and indirectly. You get all kinds of people calling up. You didn't cover this, or we're having an event for the fireman's ball, whatever it is. You got to cover it. You got to cover it. And if we don't, people are really, really disappointed. And I used to have in my office a quote that I thought was from Bill Moyers, but it goes way, way back to like before Lord Beaverbrook, that news is what they're trying to keep from you. Everything else is publicity. People want to be in the Eagle. They recognize it, how important it is when there's something happening. And when they say the Eagle, they mean the paper. Today.
You just won on Shark Tank. I buy the pitch. Kevin, today, young people, we're working with young people today doing this. So this is not a plan. Should they still go into journalism? What do you say to the next generation with everything you're dealing with? It does sound like a challenge to me, a good challenge, but what do you say? Would you go in today?
Absolutely. The work of a journalist today has more. There's an urgency. We need more journalists in this world. The world is far more complicated. Artificial intelligence is not going to help us figure it out. There's always going to be the human behind the publish button who is vetting the veracity of the news that we're publishing before publishing that news button, who has the sensibilities to say that just because the data says one thing or the Google recommendations come up and say another thing, that you're still, with a human in control, going to recommend yet the best thing for everyone. Journalism is important. It's a difficult environment. It's difficult now, but it was difficult 30 years ago. It was difficult 50 years ago. That part never changes. The world is a complex place. Our local communities are complex places. We need people who care about their communities to go in and help us make sense of what's going on around us. That part will never change. I think the only part that we have to worry about is from people telling us that journalism doesn't matter. Because those are the people that don't want the lens of journalism focused on them. I'm wary of people like that and prefer not to live in a world that is sort of led or advised by those folks. I believe in the truth. I believe that journalism is the highest office to which you're never elected. You do it because I think journalists do what they do, deliver the truth, because they have no other choice. It's something that they must do because it is something within their spine. If anyone who is young feels that passion or that sensibility of what can I do to make a difference in my community and my country, journalism is a great place to start or to end.
He means it. We had an all-staff meeting in January, and Kevin gave an extemporaneous speech about what it is to be a journalist. He called us all revolutionaries. It was really spellbinding and inspiring. And it comes through, and it comes through to the young journalists on our staff, and it helps recruit. I mean, one of the great things he has brought to this newspaper is he has recruited just an amazing array of great young talent. They come and go, and that's part of the nature of a newspaper at our size of where we stand in the food chain. And when they go to bigger, better places, more famous, larger reputations. So people in the Berkshires owe a great debt of gratitude to this man.
I think you can stand on the Berkshire Eagles Pulitzer. Listening to you, I hope that the young people here hearing this, and in J schools, I hope they get a chance to hear this. Let me close out with, I once asked the famous Bob Woodward of Watergate and all of that, what got him up in the morning, every morning. And this was in his later years when he didn't have to keep doing it. He wasn't filing for the Post every morning anymore. And he just looked at me and he just said, what are the blank word trying to keep from us this morning? Let me ask each of you in turn. Kevin and Fred, close us out. What do you feel every morning when you walk into the Eagle?
I want to find out the truth. To me, it's my barometer. Honesty, integrity. I want our communities to have that in their hands, and because it's the only thing I think we can rely on. And so I wake up every morning excited because to see what's going to happen today, but also know that throughout the course of the day, online and in print tomorrow morning, we will be able to deliver them, our readers, examples of the truth of what happened in their communities and why it matters to them.
Thank you. Fred?
When I walk in that door every morning, and Kevin and I are one of the first in, it's a sense, I get a sense of excitement. What's going to happen here today? And also a sense of extreme gratitude that I can be part of it, this part of my life. We're doing good work. There's a lot to be done. I mean, I focus more on making sure the bills get paid and the electricity's on and all that kind of stuff. But the best part of the day is when I get to read the editorial, and I take some time off, and we spend time at the end of the day. I am just really, really grateful to have this opportunity and to be able to be part of a team like this team and deliver something to the community of which we are, I think, justifiably proud.
As am I have to say. It restores my faith every morning to be able to be working with you. Kevin Moran, Executive Editor of the Berkshire Eagle, Fred Rutberg, Publisher of the Berkshire Eagle. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you, Dalton.
Viewers, if you're already a subscriber to the Berkshire Eagle, thank you. If you're not yet a subscriber, please consider becoming one. This is how we keep this flame alive and bright and growing in this country that needs it so much. I'm Dalton Delan. I'll see you next time on Eagle Reels and in the pages of the Berkshire Eagle.